Beloved Madridistas, welcome back to Madrid, welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to the most corrupt league in the world, sadly. Okay, I want to give you guys my thoughts on the Villareal match, and we'll talk about players and all that. But there's one thing I have to mention first because I think it's so important. Look, we know all the tricks that this Liga Mafia plays on us, and we know about the red cards that referees invent. You know, they even lie about the words our players say to justify red cards. We know about the penalties they give our opponents, the penalties they don't concede to us that are clear. We know that the VAR booth is manipulated. They withhold frames to the public on the broadcast and even to the ref on the pitch. We know about all these little tricks, but we have to add one to the list, which is the calendar. Okay, and this is very, very serious and I think really egregious because we're talking about the physical integrity and the health of our players. I think this is an important thing to mention. Real Madrid finished their Champions League match Wednesday night, actually Thursday morning, because the match went past midnight. By the time these players got home and showered and hydrated and kissed their spouses, by the time these players went to bed, it must have been 4 or 5 in the morning. Well, La Liga put in the calendar that they had to play the day after tomorrow, away from home. And this is, you know, FIFA has a guideline. It's not really a regulation, but it's a guideline that clubs should not play matches less than 72 hours after the previous match. This is just for the health of the players. Of course, La Liga violated this. We barely had any time to rest. Friday was the only full day of rest that we could get. And again, last night's lineup was totally conditioned by this factor, keeping in mind the health of our players. To give you guys an idea, Barça played their Champions League match on Tuesday, and when did La Liga schedule them to play? Sunday night. So they had a full 2 entire days of additional rest compared to us. It's absolutely disgusting, but I had to mention it because this is a very, very serious matter. Now, Real Madrid put a statement out saying, and I'm very happy they did this, a statement saying that from now on, if La Liga schedules us to play less than 72 hours after the previous match, we're not going to play. And I'm very, very happy that the club took this position because this is not a joke. We're talking about the physical well-being and the health of our players. La Liga is nothing without Real Madrid, and it's about time that they respected, at least, at a minimum, the well-being and the health of our players. So I needed to mention that because I think it's really important. I'm going to be doing a video later in the week about the hypocrisy coming out of Atleti and Barça supporters and anti-Madridismo, this sort of mental disorder that people have. But I'm going to address that issue, which also needs to be addressed. I'll do that in a separate video. But anyway, we'll talk about the Villareal match. I'll give you my thoughts on our performance, players, etc. Thanks for joining me as always. Thanks for being back. Let's get started. Welcome back. Let's talk about the Villareal match last night. One more thing I want to mention. I'm going to do a video this week which was prompted by one of my subs in one of the comments said, you know, why does everybody hate us? There seems to be so much noise against Real Madrid. What's going on? And I want to do a video calling out the hypocrisy of Atletico supporters and the media and Barça supporters, the absolute hypocrisy in terms of what's really going on. And you know, one of the comments this guy made was, why does everybody hate us? And I said, look, this is not true. In my intro video, I showed you guys statistics. Real Madrid is the most loved and followed and supported club in the world by a massive margin. Barça's in second place, but we are the most loved and supported club in the world. The problem is that if you support any other club, we have probably ripped the heart out of your chest on more than one occasion. So we're very successful, we're very easy to hate, but anti-Madridismo is a mental disease. It's a mental disorder. And I'm going to do a video this week discussing the hypocrisy and the absolute delusion of these people, and we're going to put that issue to rest. So look out for that video. Okay, let's go back to last night. Let's talk about the match in Villareal. Let's start with the lineup. Now, like I say, the lineup was completely conditioned by the fatigue factor in the very little time that we had to prepare for this match and to recover physically. The lineup was 100% conditioned by that. We've been very critical of Ancelotti in terms of some of the changes. He makes changes very late. He doesn't rotate enough. There are a lot of frustrations regarding Ancelotti that we've voiced on this channel regularly, but I think last night he did a very good job of managing the players and the physical limitations following that grueling Champions League match. So the lineup was 100% conditioned by this. So he came out with Courtois in goal, Lucas Vazquez as right back, Fran as left back. In center, as central defenders, he played Asensio and Tchouaméni. Tchouaméni coming back to this position where he hasn't been spectacular this year. He hasn't played terribly well in that position. I think last night he did okay. But he played Asensio and Tchouaméni as center backs. In the midfield, he had Fede and Camavinga as sort of a double pivot, Jude a little bit further forward. And then up front, he left Vini on the bench and played Brahim, Kylian, and Rodrigo. So that was a lineup. I think, it's the best I think we could do considering fatigue, and we're trying to avoid more injuries. So I think he managed the situation quite well, even with the changes. In terms of the match itself, the first half was sort of as you would expect, and you guys have to keep in mind that when Real Madrid comes to town, it is basically the most important day in these, in everyone's life. I mean, the Villareal players, and this happens everywhere we go, this is the story that they will tell their grandkids. So it is sort of the match of the year for everybody. So every team that we play comes out with an incredible level of intensity, and those first few minutes away from home, it's so important to absorb the pressure and to manage this because it happens everywhere we go. Now, unfortunately, we're not doing it very well because one of the things that worries me is that we start every match, we seem to start, almost asleep. It takes us a while to get into matches, and it's really hurting us because we're conceding goals in the first few minutes of matches, and we need to put an end to this. I'm sure Ancelotti has discussed it with the players, but we need to do a better job. We cannot start matches half asleep the way we do. So Villareal started the match on the front foot, putting an enormous amount of pressure on us and pushing forward, which is what you would expect. And the goal came in the 8th minute, which is just really unforgivable. We need to raise our level of concentration in those first few minutes of a match. Now, the goal was in the 8th minute. It was a very chaotic play. Again, it was a set piece. This is another thing that worries me, is that we're so vulnerable in set pieces this year, and it's something that we need to practice and address because we look vulnerable in set pieces. This goal was just chaotic. There were so many players in the box. I can't really blame Courtois because it was just kind of chaotic. There were a couple of deflections and the ball sort of ended up in the back of the net. I can't blame Courtois. But again, we have to do a better job in those first few minutes of matches, especially away matches. Now, following the goal, Real Madrid reacted a little bit. We tried to push up forward, which is what you would expect. And Kylian's first goal came only 10 minutes after Villareal's goal. This was a little bit fortunate. This was kind of a fortuitous deflection. The ball ended up right at Kylian's feet. He kicked it, a very low ball. We were a little bit fortunate it didn't ricochet off anybody because there were plenty of defenders in the box. But that was the 1-1. And only 5 minutes after that, Kylian scored the second goal. Now, this one took a little bit more skill because, again, there were a lot of bodies in the box, but Kylian put the ball exactly in the only place the ball could get to the back of the net, which was high and to the right. I think it was a very accurate shot, and I think required a bit more skill than the first one. But thanks to Kylian, he put us in charge of the match at 1-2. The rest of the first half was kind of back and forth, what you would expect. Some chances, not too many for us. Villareal generated some chances, although not particularly clear. And the first half ended in 1-2. Now, the second half started really, really poorly. The first few minutes, I'd say 15, 20 minutes of the second half were awful. We were losing balls all over the place. Villareal's pressure was really, really affecting us. We just couldn't string three passes together. We were defending far too deep. We were just booting the ball out kind of desperately. It's not something that you want to see from a club of our stature. We were totally unable to play the ball out of the back. So we really struggled in the first few minutes of that second half. In the 60th minute, we had the first changes of the match. Asensio and Brahim came off Rudiger and Vini came in, but even after those changes, it was still one-way traffic. It was Villareal attacking and us defending kind of desperately. Now, on the back of this, Ancelotti reacted by taking Rodrigo off in the 64th minute and putting Luka Modric in. Now, this clearly makes a lot of sense. Luka Modric is a player that brings so much composure and possession. He has so much experience. He's technically so gifted. To bring him in a match like this, you know that you're going to have greater possession, greater control over the ball. He just brings a kind of composure to our play, and that's exactly what happened. From that point on, Camavinga and Luka Modric played a sort of double pivot. And I think we looked a lot more composed after Luka Modric came in. Now, in the 66th minute, there was the handball, which, I mean, you guys, this was a clear, I mean, I've seen these penalties called my entire life. The ball, the Villareal defender, his ball is extended away from his body, and he clearly hits it with his hand and interrupts the path of the ball. Now, if it grazes someone's hand and it doesn't change the direction of the ball, that's one thing. But this was very clear. The arm was away from the body and it stopped the trajectory of the ball. This was a penalty in my mind, crystal clear. But it was funny to hear the commentators on TV because Media Pro, that has the rights here, they're part of the whole La Liga mafia with Tebas, and they are part of this little mafia. And to hear the commentators on TV here was hilarious. They were saying, well, it's not a penalty because the player extended his hand to break his fall. I mean, since when is that an excuse for a handball not being a penalty? Because he's going to break his fall? Of course, everybody does that. But this was the narrative. You know, you can tell that they have sound bites prepared depending on how these things happen and to who it happens. That was a penalty in my mind. But of course, the commentators here had a wonderful excuse for why that penalty wasn't given. Okay, after about the 67th minute, Real Madrid started to gain in composure. Luka Modric helped a lot in that regard. We started to have longer possessions. Our passing improved. We started to retain the ball for longer periods of time. Vini seemed to wake up and started to create danger on the left, taking players on. It started to look more familiar, like the Real Madrid that we like. We started to create some chances. I also want to mention Fran, because I think Fran was excellent last night. And in those minutes, after about the 67th minute or so, Real Madrid's game really improved, and Fran was a big part of that. He contributed so much on that left wing, defended very well as well. Now, in the 81st minute, we made another change, which was Fede. Now, Fede took a knock, and let's hope it's nothing more than just a knock. But I think just to be cautious, Ancelotti took him off. I was also very happy to give the guy a few minutes rest. Arda Güler came in, and that I was also very pleased with that, because Arda must be very frustrated. He's not getting any minutes, and I was very happy to see him come on and very happy to see Fede on the bench. Now, we need to hope that it's only a knock and nothing serious. So Arda came in the 81st minute. Villareal in those final few minutes continued trying to push forward, but Real Madrid also kind of created a few chances. There was one chance at the end of the match, and Arda Güler receives the ball on the right, and, you know, instead of passing it to the middle, Kylian was wide open. He decided to take a shot, which went terribly wrong. Kylian got pretty pissed off at young Arda, and, you know, you could see Kylian yelling at him. But I think, you know, Arda, because he doesn't play very many minutes, I think maybe the anxiety, the desire to want to generate something, he took the shot himself, but I think that was a mistake. But in the final minutes of the match, it was a bit back and forth, and not too many clear chances, but it was sort of back and forth. So the match ended. Look, overall, I would say this was a very efficient and professional performance, considering the physical limitations of the squad. And again, the lineup was entirely conditioned by the fatigue factor. But I think Ancelotti managed it very, very well, and we took away those 3 points. Now, you guys, I do discuss the issue of refs and all that quite a bit on this channel. Irrespective of all of that, we're going to fight. We're going to fight for this title. We're probably going to have to play perfect football, and we're going to have to score in a huge amount of goals because God knows how many will be disallowed. But we are going to keep fighting. I think that the team showed that despite all of the factors, the adversity that we're facing, that we're not going to give up, and we're going to try to win this title come hell or high water. And it's going to take perfect football, like I say, but I was very happy to see that we're not giving up. Kylian wants this Liga, the players want this Liga, and no matter what they do to us, we're not going to give up. And it was encouraging to see that courage and that commitment. So I thought it was a professional performance, an efficient performance, and it keeps us in play for the title. In terms of individual players, I'll do this quickly. Courtois, I think, was fantastic. And Courtois last night combined two types of saves. So he had some excellent reflex saves, which is when the ball comes at you very, very quickly and you just have barely a split second to react. He had a few of those saves, but he also had saves where he had to fully stretch himself. There was one shot in the first half that was going near the post, very low. And, Courtois is 6'7". He's a very tall guy. And the speed with which he gets to ground, and he managed to get all the way to the post, it was a phenomenal save. Courtois had a wonderful match, and, he's reminding us that he is just a hidden treasure. I mean, how many points has Courtois given us by virtue of his performances and his saves? I thought Courtois was fantastic last night and just gives us so much security. Lucas Vázquez, okay, we have been critical of Lucas defensively this season, and rightfully so, but I think last night he played very, very well. I mean, in addition to the assist, he had an assist in one of Kylian's goals. In addition to that, I think he defended very well. And last night, even when they managed to get behind him, he was very good at backtracking and recovering and getting back in front of the Villareal players. So I think he had a very good defensive game, and we have to give him credit because, like I say, we have been critical of him this season. Asensio played a great match again, and when he was substituted, I think it had nothing to do with his performance. I think that it just had to do with fatigue. And I think Ancelotti managing the players that I think he felt were most tired. But Asensio played very well. He had a couple of mistakes here and there, which is normal. But I think he played with an enormous amount of aggressiveness, as he always does. One thing I'm noticing about Asensio in recent matches is his speed. And it's something that when he first started playing, I didn't quite pick up on, but he's incredibly quick. Asensio's incredibly quick. His ability to catch up and backtrack when defenders get behind him, his speed is phenomenal. I think this is a fantastic center back. So I think Asensio played very well. And like I say, his substitution, I think, was related to fatigue only and nothing else. Tchouaméni had, a center back. He hasn't played particularly well. He's a much better defensive pivot than he is a center back, and we've commented about that on this channel before. But I think last night he played very well in that position. Now, he started a bit tentatively in those first few minutes when Villareal was really pushing up. He did struggle a bit. He looked a little bit tentative. But as the match went on, I think he kind of grew into it. And overall, I think Tchouaméni played a very good match as center back. And this is encouraging because it probably is not the last time that we're going to have to deploy Aurélien as center back, because we are going to need him in that position. So it's encouraging to see him adapt and play better, because I think last night he did well. Fran had probably the best match I've seen Fran play since he arrived at Real Madrid. Last night, Fran was everywhere. He was just absolutely, he ran so much. I mean, he contributed practically to every single attack, but did a great job backtracking. He's a very quick player. He runs a lot, made an enormous effort. But I think last night Fran played one of his most complete games, both in attack and in defense. I think Fran had a fantastic match. And again, that's very encouraging because Mendy has been a little softer than usual this season. So it's very encouraging to see Fran perform this way. I thought he was very good last night. Fede, as always, if you have to rate Fede from 1 to 10, every single match he plays is a 7 or an 8. He played another fantastic match. We need to be careful that he's not injured, and I hope that this was just a knock and nothing serious. Fede is absolutely indispensable to our play. He's just the most solid, consistent player we have, and I think last night played another 7, or 8 type of performance. I thought he was fantastic, and I was very happy to see him rest those last few minutes. Camavinga, when he came back from injury, he didn't look particularly good in the couple of games right after the injury, but he played very well against Atletico de Madrid those 20-30 minutes on Wednesday. And he looked very, very good last night. He was very good in transition. He defended very well, recovered tons of balls, covered a lot of space. And importantly, Camavinga has a very special elasticity about him. He's got very long legs. He's very quick. He times his tackles very well. A lot of times you see Camavinga go to ground and you think, man, he's not going to get to the ball. But he does. He has these incredibly long legs, and he's very elastic. He just stretches his line. I don't know how he does it, but he recovered a ton of balls. His timing and challenges was very good, and he brought a lot of dynamism to our midfield. I think Kama was great, and this is encouraging because he's going to be playing in North London. Tchouaméni can't play that match, so we're going to see Camavinga play against Arsenal in the first leg. So it's very encouraging to see him get back to form. I thought that was very positive. Okay, Jude, I have to tell you, I absolutely love this player. I absolutely love Jude. Jude is one of the most generous players I've ever seen. The effort that he makes every single match he plays is extraordinary. He's I think he's our hardest working player. His defensive contribution was incredible. I watched the match twice, and you guys need to watch Jude's first half. Should be in a museum. It was an exhibition of stealing balls in every possible way, and his passing was just spectacular. His distribution was incredible. Not just the decision-making of the passes, where to pass the ball, but the execution and the precision of his passes. I thought Jude in the first half was incredible, played a very good second half as well. Jude is an absolutely indispensable player. He is so unique in what he brings. He also had some flashes of technical brilliance that are just, I love this kind of stuff. The way he protects the ball by using both feet, and the way he shifts the ball from foot to foot, getting around defenders, he protects the ball so well under pressure because he has that physicality and the technique to protect the ball. He's an extraordinary player, absolutely invaluable. I thought Jude was wonderful, and his first half I thought was just absolutely spectacular. Okay, Brahim had a very quiet night, and it just, we're so used to seeing Brahim carry the ball and dribble past people. It didn't really happen last night. I think he played okay, but we just didn't see him. He just wasn't that effective in the one-on-ones. He didn't carry the ball as much. He did lose a few balls. It was just one of those nights when the dribbles weren't working. So I think Brahim he's a wonderful player. He's a very special player and very technically gifted, but I think last night it just wasn't his night. Things just weren't, it wasn't working. For some reason, he was just much more muted than we're used to. Okay, Rodrigo was much better without the ball than with the ball, because he wasn't that effective creating danger up front in the one-on-ones, on the wing, etc., but he was wonderful defending. Last night, we as spectators, we love to see the offensive stuff and the dribbles and the shots and the goals. But managers love to see what Rodrigo did last night. He was very generous defending. There were so many occasions where he was absolutely critical, interrupting the Villareal attack, and he came all the way back to defend on so many occasions. I think it was the type of match that he played very much for the team and very much for the collective. I think Ancelotti would have been very, very happy with him. So it wasn't very effective offensively, but I thought he was very generous defensively, and it made a material difference in terms of defending. Okay, Kylian, it's so wonderful to see Kylian play like this, and he's starting to develop this Cristiano-esque quality, which is, you guys remember, Cristiano, even if he wasn't playing particularly well, or was, kind of the dribbles weren't working, or he was losing balls, you knew that at some point he was going to score. There was this certainty that Cristiano he's going to score. You don't know when, even if he's playing poorly, but he's going to score. Kylian is starting to develop this Cristiano-esque quality about him. He's scoring a lot of goals in the last few matches. His skill is incredible because his speed, the way this guy turns, and his acceleration is incredible. He finishes beautifully with both feet. Kylian is the player that we fought for so many years to bring to Madrid. That player is finally here, and like I say, he's developing this Cristiano-esque thing where you just know he's going to make a difference. I thought Kylian was fantastic. I have to mention that by the end of the night, he was completely exhausted, absolutely exhausted, and I think Jude, they showed Jude at the end of the match, and it looked like he was going to vomit. I mean, he was hunched over. The players this was a huge physical effort considering the little time they had to recover. But I think Kylian had an awesome night. Okay, in terms of substitutes, Rudiger I thought was very solid. Vini was good. He was a lot more with it than against Atletico. Against Atletico, I thought he was a bit muted. But last night it didn't really work out. I mean, but he tried. Okay, he was insisting. You know how Vini has this kind of constant insistence on the left wing. Well, last night he did it again. He took players on constantly. He really disrupted the Villareal defense. And even though it didn't quite work, that last pass was kind of always missing. But he did create a lot of danger, and he felt a lot more active than against Atletico de Madrid. So it was encouraging to see Vini with that kind of attitude, aggressive attitude offensively. Luka Modric, of course, was wonderful. He brings that composure, that experience in distribution. So I thought Modric was wonderful as well. Okay, very quick word about the refs. So Gil Manzano is part of this. Every ref in La Liga was recruited by Negreira. So all these guys are part of this mafia, but Gil Manzano was awful. I think referees in this country are not just corrupt, they're just really bad. They're constantly interrupting play. Everything is a foul. The penalty, in my mind, was absolutely obvious. Gil Manzano was just awful, but that's no surprise there. And by the way, look at these stats. These are stats after the first half, and this happens pretty much in every match we play in La Liga. We commit less fouls than the opponents, but we always end up with more cards. This happens every single match in La Liga, so we're absolutely used to it. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the match. I think overall, look, we face so much adversity in this league with everything going on, but it was wonderful to see the players commit. Like we are not going to give up on this league. We're going to keep fighting. We have to play perfect football and score a ton of goals to win this league. But I love to see the fact that these players are committed to it, despite everything that we're facing. I thought we showed a lot of character and a lot of attitude last night. Like I say, it was a professional and efficient performance, and we're going to keep fighting for this title no matter what crap these people throw at us. So that was very encouraging. Okay, a couple of things. Obviously, the Arsenal match is what everybody's thinking about, and that's going to be incredibly exciting. I just want to mention this. I'm going to do a video this week talking about just the kind of hypocrisy of Atleti supporters and Barça supporters and this anti-Madridismo, which is like a mental disorder. I'm going to discuss the hypocrisy and all of those issues this week because I think we need to address it once and for all. Look, at the end of the day, we win. And why do if you're not a Madridista, you hate us. And why is that? Because we win. That's just the way it is. But I'm going to do a separate video about that, which I hope you guys will watch. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the match last night. I hope that you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining me as always. I'll see you guys in the next video. And as always and forever, a la Madrid.